In June 2016, Jeremy Corbyn, the left-wing leader of the UK Labour Party, launched the Chakrabarti Report into anti-Semitism and other forms of racism in the Labour Party. This launch, though, was immediately upstaged by an incident that occurred in the room during the launch between black rights activist Marc Wadsworth and Labour MP Ruth Smeeth. Mr. Wadsworth, a left-wing black rights campaigner, activist and journalist, had played a significant role in setting up the Justice for Stephen Lawrence campaign, which resulted ultimately in the Stephen Lawrence inquiry and report. Mr. Wadsworth was handing out a press release about the party and racism at the Chakrabarti launch event. He remarked on how few black or brown faces there were in the audience on that occasion, and had asked for MPs not to be given copies, only journalists. A Telegraph journalist, Kate McCann, who later worked for Sky and is now political editor of Talk TV, passed a copy of Mr. Wadsworth's press release to Jewish Labour MP Ruth Smeeth, and Mr. Wadsworth observed this happening. On observing this, Mr. Wadsworth, who was speaking from the floor at the time, said, directing the comment to Ruth Smeeth, "Look who's working hand in hand with the media." A news camera caught Ruth Smeeth's reaction. She was in conversation with some of those around her and appears to be saying, "Is he talking about me?" While others can be heard saying to Wadsworth, "How dare you?" After a few moments, Smeeth stood and dramatically left the room while Mr. Wadsworth continued to speak. Reports claimed that Ms Wadsworth left the room in tears, but the video doesn't show that. She does, apparently, though, look extremely angry. Let's just take a look at the clip.
So you can see who's working hand in hand.
Are you serious? How dare you? How dare you?
The question is this, right? If you look around this room, how many African, Caribbean and Asian people are there? We really need to get our house in order, don't we? And that was a recommendation of the report that the Labour Party has to change in terms of representation, including SPACs, not just having white boys surrounding.
To make it absolutely clear, this report is about changing the party, is about greater diversity, is about larger representation of all communities, including the Afro-Caribbean community, in staff, in appointments, and in...
This incident became the sole focus of media attention. It was claimed that Wadsworth had directed an anti-Semitic trope towards Ruth Smeeth, that at the launch of a report into anti-Semitism in the Corbyn Labour Party itself, he, a Corbyn-supporting Labour member, had directed anti-Semitic abuse at a Jewish Labour MP. Smeeth issued a statement speaking of traditional anti-Semitic slurs to attack me for being part of a media conspiracy, and she condemned Jeremy Corbyn for not responding to this, saying that he should resign. She said, "It is beyond belief that someone could come to the launch of a report on anti-Semitism in the Labour Party and espouse such vile conspiracy theories about Jewish people, which were ironically highlighted as such in Ms Chakrabarti's report, while the leader of my own party stood by and did absolutely nothing. People like this have no place in our party or our movement and must be opposed." But had Marc Wadsworth directed a vile conspiracy theory about a media conspiracy towards Ruth Smeeth? I think there are two things to note here. The first thing is that Marc Wadsworth had no idea that Ruth Smeeth is Jewish, nor is there any reason to believe that he should have known. She'd been an MP for about a year at this time. She was not a high-profile or significant figure within the Labour Party. Wadsworth recognised her merely as a Labour MP who was cooperating with a Corbyn-hostile journalist from a Corbyn-hostile newspaper, the Daily Telegraph. This was what he was commenting on, that an MP in Corbyn's Labour Party was cooperating with a journalist known to be hostile to Jeremy Corbyn. But even if that were not so, there simply is no anti-Semitic trope of working hand in hand with the media. It doesn't exist. Of course, Jewish people work in and with the media just like anyone else, and of course MPs work closely with journalists. This is not exactly news. The trope about Jewish people and the media is control and ownership of the media, not being pally with someone from the Telegraph. Working hand in hand with the media simply is not an anti-Semitic trope. Nonetheless, in the heightened and hyper-vigilant atmosphere of the time, Wadsworth's comments were perceived to be anti-Semitic. He was suspended from the party and expelled in 2018 for behaviour grossly detrimental to the party. Ruth Smeeth is pictured here walking to that hearing, surrounded by other Corbyn-hostile right-wing Labour MPs. Mr Wadsworth continues to campaign and is working to clear his name of the false accusation that he's an anti-Semite. Ruth Smeeth lost her seat to Tory Jonathan Gullis in 2019 and left the Labour Party, citing anti-Semitism as her primary reason. She was appointed by Keir Starmer to the House of Lords in 2022, becoming Baroness Anderson of Stoke-on-Trent, despite being revealed in a WikiLeaks cable in 2009 as being a strictly protect US secret informant. She is also chief executive of the anti-censorship charity Index on Censorship. So, was Ruth Smeeth subjected to anti-Semitic abuse by Marc Wadsworth at the launch of the Chakrabarti Report into anti-Semitism and other forms of racism in the Labour Party? I think it's fairly obvious that she in fact was not. The video of the event shows nothing of the kind. The claim is false.